everyone. It's Catherine Jelinek with the Skinny Platform, and I'm excited today to be here with Beth Fahey, EOS Implementer, to talk about her nugget. Hi, Beth. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. Take us right in. What is your nugget?
So my nugget is around right people, right seat issues. And I've led around 500 sessions with clients. And one of the issues that we see so often is lingering right people, right seat issues. So Bob's name just keeps appearing every quarter, right, on the issues list. And I'm always thinking as an implementer, like, why isn't this getting addressed? Like, why? And it's hard, right? It's really hard to address people issues. It's really hard to have tough conversations. And what I find is that most often when we have a conversation with somebody around the seriousness of a right people, right seat issue, we've softened the dialogue so much that people aren't getting the message,
Mm,
right? So we're not conveying how serious it is. And because we have probably we've tried to be nice and spared their feelings. And so these issues just kind of keep perpetuating quarter after quarter. And then you've got your implementer in the session room who's going to be like, hey, Bob, okay, this is now the third quarter I've seen Bob on the issues list. So this is really just about a rule of thumb. When it comes to right people, right seat issues, it's going to take you a little while to figure out if you've got the right person. And there's a joke that my sister and I always used to make. I had a bakery business, and the joke always was, it takes about 6 weeks for the real person to show up. And, some people are just really good at interviewing. Um, Sometimes we, as the interviewers, are just seeing what we want to see. And especially if we have visionary tendencies, we're the last people that should ever hire somebody because all we see is potential, right? But this is really about having a rule of thumb. And I would argue it takes you a full quarter to really understand if you've got a right person, right seat issue. So again, right people, right seat issues are core values mismatch. Like the core values, they just don't fit, or the GWC isn't there in the seat. They don't get it, want it, or have capacity. So with core values, the expectation is that they're meeting the bar. If you've got 5 core values in your organization, 3 pluses, 2 plus minuses. And with GWC, it's a yes, yes, yes. And so checking in on your gut and, within the first quarter, do I have a right person in the right seat? And doing a people analyzer, and this is work you do on your own to prepare you to have a conversation. And so if they're meeting your expectations in regards to core values and GWC in their seat, then they're a right person and we're good. And we should just be telling them that in the quarterly conversation. If, however, it is not meeting your expectations, they're not meeting your expectations in core values and GWC, the opportunity is to tell them that in the upcoming quarterly conversation. However, if you really feel that you have missed the mark on this hire, we really need to have that conversation a lot earlier. And so the rule of thumb is 1 quarter to identify, 1 quarter to solve. And so if you follow that rule of thumb, you should only be struggling with a right person, right seat issue at maximum 6 months, hopefully less than that. And what I find is that most of the time my clients let these go on for multiple quarters or months, years, often that we see somebody's name, or they just stop bringing it up because they don't want to have the conversation anymore with me. So that's kind of what I've learned, and the clients that I have that have adopted that as a philosophy are much more action oriented towards solving these right people, right seat issues, and they just get them solved a lot quicker. Because quite honestly, most of the issues that are on the issues list are around people. And if we can just get the courage to solve those sooner than later, the business can move much faster. So that's my nugget.
yes, worthy nugget. So, a few questions. Is it more often the core values or the GWC that you've seen is the reason for a person in misalignment? Is it half and half, or is it kind of more often one or the other?
I would say it really depends. I mean, there's not any pattern that I've seen. Um, with the exception, I mean, core values, I think people are pretty good about identifying core values issues. I mean, they're seeing those right away and they can call it out and cite it. Where people get confused is on the GWC issues, gets it, wants it, capacity. And they get often very confused about gets it and capacity. Like they conflate those two. Gets it means that somebody has the innate ability to do the job well, like they're wired for it. It's in their DNA. And when you show them their accountabilities on the seat, they get it. It's just like it, yeah, duh, that I get it. That's the job. You know that you've got a get it issue when you have to explain the job to somebody frequently, many, many times over and again. Hey, this is what the job is. This is what I really need you to do. And if you find yourself as the boss continually going back and explaining to them what the job is, it's likely a get it issue. Capacity is the acquired ability to do the job. So this is assuming that they have the right skill set, that they get the job. There's obviously going to be a training period, and they may not be completely up to speed for a while. And this is one that you can kind of fudge for a little while, like maybe a quarter or two. So as you're bringing somebody up to speed in their role, the capacity might not be there at the beginning, but you should definitely see it within a couple of quarters. And if you don't, I mean, there's not this perpetual, yeah, it's okay that capacity is a no. It's like, no, we want to say that needs to be solved as quickly as possible. So where I see the biggest confusion is on the GWC issue and just not having the definition clear in the boss's head.
So you mentioned kind of how to spot the capacity and the gets it. Any tips on how to spot the wants it, or is that kind of just obvious?
Yeah, wants it is pretty easy. I mean, wants it is like people genuinely want the job. They're bringing energy. They're not what, again, my sister and I used to call clock punchers, right? They come in, they're there to get a paycheck. I mean, that person doesn't want the job. So somebody that wants the job is bringing energy. They're constantly proving to you through scorecard measurables, through getting their rocks done, through just kind of general energy. They're bringing that into the role. When somebody doesn't want, then their behavior betrays them, right? They are showing up late, or they're taking off every other Friday afternoon, or they're just doing enough to get by. And that's the big indicator of want it. You can always tell when somebody wants it or not. And it's important that they want the job that they're in, the seat that they're in, and not some other seat. So that's the other thing that we'll see too.
Yeah, that's really important. What is
Yeah.
the reason that you see that leaders or owners are going longer than those 2 quarters? Like, why are they choosing to delay, delay, delay?
Well, there's two reasons usually. The first is fear of conflict. Nobody wants to have a tough conversation. It's not fun, right? To have a conversation about somebody's performance that they're not meeting your expectations. But, like Brene Brown says, be clear to be kind. So that's the first reason, is that people just either don't have the training or just don't like to do it. The second reason is that if they have that tough conversation, the fear is that they're going to have to, if that person doesn't meet their expectations, they might leave. And then that means that that person will have to do their job. And so because they're so fearful of having, they're barely getting their own work done, the thought of having a tough conversation and, creating a flight risk is, they're sort of saying, well, I'd rather have somebody that's doing half the job than nobody, which really, is a lot of the reasons that we have people issues, because again, we're afraid to tell somebody. So the hope is that you have that tough conversation. That person, it's like a sledgehammer moment for them, right? Where they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I was impacting the team this much, and that they can turn their behavior around. So that it can happen. right? But more often than not, it's, you're just going to have to live with it if and be really firm about what your expectations are. And what I've seen more often than not is that when somebody does leave or when we fire them, and you just rip off the band-aid and are like, okay, this just isn't working, then what tends to happen is that the team fills in. The team will, step up and fill in the gaps. And you don't even notice that that person is gone. And that 9 times out of 10, that's actually what happens. It's not that the world comes crumbling down and you're doing 100 hours of work a week. People step in. So that's why it's important to, have the courage to have these tough conversations, because the more, you get used to this and just this is part of our normal thing, which is why the nugget is important, right? 1/4 to identify, 1/4 to solve. That is just a really good rule of thumb, because then you're not wasting thousands of dollars of the company's money in training the wrong person. And it's like, look, fail fast, figure it out quickly, and address the situation.
How about any words of wisdom you'd give folks who really do struggle with the conflict and struggle with having those hard conversations? What guidance do you give them when they're approaching the conversation they need to have?
Is to just keep it simple, right? And be very clear. So EOS is great because we've got all these tools that are connected to expectations. There are scorecard measurables. If somebody isn't meeting their measurable every week, that is a big indicator. If somebody isn't getting their rocks done every quarter, that's a big indicator. If they're not participating in level 10 meetings and bringing issues and actively trying to solve things, that's a big indicator. So that's the thing with EOS, is that it shines a spotlight on everything. And so for bosses, it makes it just a super easy tool. And then if you're employing quarterly conversations, which is the graphic I have here behind me, it's really about covering 3 things, right? Core values, the rocks, and the roles in their seat. So core values and roles in their seat, we've already talked about that. Roles is GWC. Rocks and measurables, meeting those expectations. If you factor those 3 things into your preparation for any quarterly conversation and use the filter of what's working, what's not working with either one of those, then 90% of your expectations are in those 3 things: core values, rocks, and the roles in their seats. And 90% of your expectations about what's working or what's not working. So obviously we want to be talking to people about the things that are working, not just the what's not working. We want to tell them when they're hitting it out of the park. But where it's not working, just be super clear. Hey, you not meeting this measurable every week is a problem. We need to get, so is the measurable wrong? Like, do we have the wrong goal? Is that unattainable? Like, really IDS it with them and try to get to the root cause of why that isn't happening. And that's why the quarterly conversation is so good, because it should be getting you to root causes, not just little picky things like, not cleaning up the break room, every day, right? It's more about, hey, this ties back to a core value issue, or hey, this ties back to the GW senior seat, or this ties back to your rock performance or your measurables performance on scorecards. So those tools, if we use them, and the trick is to use them, are what's going to help you make sure that you're addressing those right people, right seat issues as quickly as possible.
I feel like we just got like double or triple nuggets
Yeah.
in this conversation.
Whatever you want to pull, that's fine with me. This is a passion area of mine because I teach the Great Boss workshops. I help to develop the quarterly conversation tool with EOS Worldwide.
Wow.
It's one of the things that's just very, very helpful. And, if I had learned about it a lot sooner in my career as a boss, I would have done a much better job with people. But, you've got to use the tools.
Use the tools and lean into the hard stuff.
Yes.
And be clear to be kind.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for all of this, Beth. It was really
Of course.
and clear, and I'm sure it'll be very effective for those who listen and apply.
Awesome. Great.
Thanks.
I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Take care, Beth. This episode of the Podcast of Nuggets is presented by The Skinny Platform and is released in support of Freedom Reads, a national nonprofit opening handcrafted, curated 500-book libraries in prison cell blocks across America. Freedom libraries are more than just books. They are lifelines. They bring connection, hope, and dignity to prisons. Learn more at freedomreads.org. Freedom begins with a book.